I mean, $1. I can't believe I found it for $1. It's just one of those things that you find. If you didn't know, I was in the Pillars Mall a couple months ago, and I came across a gym. Like every now and then, I'll go in there, and like, let me gather you up on my story. So I have this old RCA, 1984 color TV. I think it's 12 inches. Anyways, it's the same one I had when I was a kid. And to me, the best type of shop TV is a old TV like this. For some reason, they have a sound that new TVs don't. My buddy told me that it's because the speakers are different, the technology's different. But I can turn this thing up, and it's from over on that side of the shop, it sounds the exact same as I'm sitting next to it. And I love it. It's got that high-pitched ringing noise that almost sounds like my tinnitus, you know? But, I don't know. I love it. So, I have a VHS player that goes with it. And, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. Kentucky's going through its third ice age here lately. Just this year. So anyways, it's like having a VHS player and not having any of the VHS tapes I had when I was growing up is almost like a scavenger hunt. Almost when you go out, like yard sales and Pillars malls and thrift stores and stuff. It's really fun because nobody wants VHS tapes, and it's been that way since DVDs came out and was popular everywhere. And so the VHS tapes are always back behind something or down in a corner somewhere just out of place. And so it's really fun to search for them and try to find like the goodies. Like I have a collection back here. There's some of my favorites. Like I have Indiana Jones, Terminator, the original Star Wars trilogy, Men in Black, Signs, Apollo 13, Independence Day, Jurassic Park, Total Recall, Ace Ventura. The list goes on. And in my little warehouse back here, I have even more. And I could only find maybe like 10 of the ones I had when I was younger, right? That were in my mom's house and at my dad's house and stuff. And so, like everything else, I've had to find. And the best part of it is they're always like 25 cents or 50 cents or $1. I haven't seen or paid for one anywhere over $1 yet. And I was just walking through the Pillars Mall not too long ago. And I stumbled upon this gym. It's called The Trials of Life by David Attenborough. And it has 4 tapes in it. And they're so neat. This one is Hunting and Escaping, right? So this is the stuff that used to come on the Discovery Channel back in the 90s when I was a kid. I remember falling asleep to it on this TV, you know? So it's really cool. Like, it's just nostalgic. I guess you could call me a total millennial or a loser, you know? Either one works. But it's fun to me. It's interesting. I kind of create this atmosphere when I'm in my shop, and this TV and certain other things just kind of help create my atmosphere that I like to create and make in. This one is Finding Food. It's got a bumblebee. The one that's actually in right now playing is Talking to Strangers. And this one with the zebras or zebras for those of you across the pond. Fighting. That's what that one's called. And it's narrated and hosted by David Attenborough. And most of the time it tells you when these things came out on the back of these tapes. This says copyright 1991. Artwork and design 1992. So it came out in the early 90s, I would assume. Yeah, I was thinking it might have been, later than that. Or, a little earlier than that, like the 80s, but it was the 90s. And they inspired me. Like when I found it, I came home, I popped one in, I just got inspired. And I was thinking, that's something that the world I've been creating needs. It needs zoology. I need wildlife, you know, something I can just show that there is still life on this earth that is now a wasteland and irradiated. That even though the conditions are harsh, that the wildlife and things will adapt, things that have tougher bones within their DNA, you know. And it really inspired me to start making a whole list of zoology and characters to go into my world. And yeah, I made one. He's deadly but cute at the same time, you know. Kind of like me. No, I'm just kidding. Cut that out. Cut that out. That was just cut that out. So yeah, you want to see it? All right. David Attenborough, what a gem. He's just we didn't deserve him, but we got him. Him and Steve Irwin, legends. So I picked up these Cheaposaurus Rex, the Mighty Dollar, not too long ago, and I really liked the textures on their body, and it showed a lot of potential. To start with, all we need to do is take a few of these limbs that are in the wrong place and chop them off. I was never one of the lucky ones in high school to be able to dissect a frog in science class, but look at me now. I'm dissecting dinosaurs. Alan Grant might be proud of me. The only unfortunate part about these discount action figure dinosaurs is that they're hollow and they're not very rigid. But that's okay because we got all these trash and junk boxes to sort through to find the perfect bones. I always like to find an excuse to pull out all my junk anyways, because I like to try to find shapes that don't necessarily match, but ones that I can cut up and make match and turn into something that doesn't exactly exist. And to be honest, I need to use some of this up anyways, because I'm starting to run out of storage for all the trash that I've been accumulating. So now that I got all my pieces laid out, I'm going to start to throw this thing together. I'm going to use this deodorant cap as my hip bones to hold the legs on. Sanding down the hard plastic gives it a little bit more grip, and for this really slick plastic, just burning the inside of it a little bit, a tip I picked up from Craftsman. All these things help make the glue adhere better and make it easier for bonding. The only problem I have here is that the legs aren't spread out enough, but I was able to find this beer pong ball, which I'm going to cut in half and use as some nice hip joints. It's just sheer coincidence that it gave me a perfect looking frog butt to go along with it. All these reused leg parts and beer pong balls really start to go together and shape things up. I use one more of those beer pong balls to build out the shoulder joints and the chest. I take all the feet bits that I had cut off earlier and used a little super glue to adhere them back to the leg bits. I attached them to the body and somehow come out with some perfect looking legs. Aren't they just gorgeous? To finish up the build of the body, all I had to do was find something that was fitting for a toad head. I still had the other half of the deodorant cap though that I'd shoved in his chest earlier, and it turns out it's the perfect shape for a frog head. Then I used this little plastic ball that came out of my junk box. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it fits perfectly to finish out the frog body and make the jawline. I was genuinely amazed by how much this actually looked like a frog body. Sometimes I impress myself. I'm going to use these pearl beads for the eyeballs. So I take a little bit of floral wire and I run through the hole in the bead and wrap it around itself and then braid it back together. I use my drill to perform some precision brain surgery on this toad and place 2 holes on the opposite sides of the head, and then push the floral wire through and secure it with some super glue to hold the eyes in place. Isn't it adorable? And even though he essentially looked complete and basically had the perfect shape of a frog made out of plastic and junk parts, I felt like I was still missing something. And then I found the tail. I had the leftover dinosaur tail and, it had to be used. The only thing I had to figure out is where to put it. And where else but in between those beautiful frog buttocks. Now to fill all those gaps and seams along his beautiful body, I decided to sculpt with Milliput. Seemed pretty simple. You just mix 2 parts 1-to-1. It's an epoxy and you have 3 hours working time. If you need to soften the Milliput, you use a little bit of water, and any kind of regular clay sculpting tools works great on it. I found out that no matter how many times I'd done this and repeated the process while creating his fat rolls or little ridges on his face, that I didn't need near as much as what I mixed up. Regardless, I overused all my materials, so it didn't stop me. After a couple hours of working with it, I started to figure out the ratios a little bit better and how this stuff moves. I gotta say, I'm definitely a fan of Milliput now. For the most part, all I had used to sculpt with was a couple of my silicone styluses and a few ball styluses, along with a needle to add fine details, and I used a bit of super Sculpey to match the texture from the dinosaur skin and bake that in the oven, and then I could transfer the textures onto the Milliput. It didn't work as well as I'd hoped it would, but it worked pretty good. Turns out that Milliput likes to fill any type of holes that it finds. I'm not that great at sculpting, but I was able to use this Milliput in a way that I can't usually get out of clay. I mean, technically, I guess it's because the clay I had sculpted with before was Super Sculpey, or Cone 6, and it's a little bit more flimsy than the Milliput was. So the structure and the firmness that the Milliput gave me was a lot easier for me to work with. For the last part of the build, I really wanted to incorporate some EVA foam. I decided to put some scales on him to protect his body against his harsh environment. I used a wire brush to scrape this to make it look more like scales instead of just plate armor. The best part about EVA foam is that you can apply a little bit of heat to these lines and make them look more dense than what they are. I applied all the scales one by one with super glue, and then I hit it with a little bit of heat to get the ends of them to curl up a little bit. Next thing to do was move on to the painting. Instead of me describing to you how I botched this paint job and had to repaint him several times in order to get the right color scheme I needed, and the fact that the paint was frozen and I couldn't get it out of the tube anyways, I decided to take the time to adventure into the lore and tell you a little bit about the zoology and the biome that this toad lives in. Earth, a vast wasteland, dry and arid. The high levels of radiation would make you believe life was near impossible. But some creatures, like here in the barren rest of the Gulf of Mexico, have adapted to survive. The Barren Scaled Toad has adjusted to the harsh environment through genetic mutations. His heavily armored belly protects him from high desert winds and razor-sharp terrain. The ring horn on the top of his nose allows him to sense water up to 4 miles away. And in this desolated wasteland, which was once home to aquatic life, and over 2 million cubic kilometers of water, is now assailed by acidic ponds and toxic rivers. Finding potable water is not for the faint of heart. Survival is burdensome. And for a barren toad the size of a grown cow, food is sporadic. There is some hope for our 4-footed friend though. 400 miles south, and a large crater formed from an asteroidal impact which killed the dinosaurs, off the Yucatan Basin, lies an oasis of life. The great toad migration has begun. Once our scaly friend has arrived, insect ingestion and mating are the Barren Scaled Toad's top priority. Even in the most harsh environments on Earth's surface, life finds a way to exist. For us humans, however, it may be centuries, or even millennia, before we step foot again on our ancestral homeworld. For now, observation and data collection from our most skilled scientists will insist the knowledge and skills needed for the heroic trailblazers that will one day accept the trials and brave the unknown. And thank you for watching. This broadcast is made possible by viewers like you. Well, I hope that wasn't too hard to get to. I appreciate all of you that stuck around and watched this far. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave me a like and a comment. Tell me what you think about the story and the idea of zoology in my own world. I hope this inspires you to create and make something of your own. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all on the other end of the trail.
Thank you.